The wrench slipped from my greasy fingers and clattered against the concrete driveway as I heard my wife Miranda's voice drift through our kitchen window. It was past midnight, and I was out here fixing my beat-up Honda because I couldn't afford to take it to a real mechanic anymore. Not since Miranda started spending our money on her career development and designer clothes. "Oh, Sam, you should have seen him today," Miranda was saying, her voice carrying that fake sweetness she used when she was talking trash about me. "Patrick actually asked me if we could go on a date night this weekend. Can you believe it? After 15 years of marriage, he thinks dinner at Applebee's is going to fix everything." I froze, my hand still reaching for the wrench. Sam Torres was Miranda's best friend from the marketing agency where they both worked. Sam had never liked me, made that clear from day one when Miranda and I got married. "I swear, Sam, sometimes I think about what life would be like if I'd married someone with actual ambition. Someone like Leonard, you know? He gets it. He understands what it takes to succeed in this world." Leonard Grant, Miranda's boss at the agency. The guy who drove a BMW and wore suits that cost more than I made in a month running my little IT repair shop. My stomach dropped as Miranda continued. "Leonard and I have been working so closely on the Morrison account. Late nights, business dinners, that conference in Chicago last month. He's everything Patrick isn't. Sophisticated, successful, ambitious. And Sam, I have to tell you something, but you can't tell anyone." I crept closer to the window, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Leonard and I, we've been seeing each other. Really seeing each other, if you know what I mean. And oh my God, Sam, it's incredible. He makes me feel alive again. He makes me feel like a woman instead of just some guy's wife who fixes computers for a living." The wrench fell from my hand again, this time landing on my foot. I bit back a curse and pressed myself against the side of the house. "The best part is, Patrick is so clueless. He actually thinks our marriage is getting better because I've been in such a good mood lately. He has no idea that his boring little wife is having the most amazing affair with her boss. Leonard took me to the Marriott downtown last Tuesday. You know, when I told Patrick I was at that marketing seminar, we ordered room service and didn't leave the bed for 6 hours. Sam's laughter echoed through the phone. "Miranda, you're terrible. But honestly, good for you. Patrick never deserved you anyway. He's such a loser. I mean, what kind of man lets his wife be the breadwinner while he plays around with broken computers in that pathetic little shop?" "I know, right? And the thing is, I'm not even worried about him finding out. What's he going to do, divorce me? He'd lose everything. The house, half his business, probably end up paying me alimony. Patrick's too much of a coward to ever leave me, and he's definitely too stupid to figure out what's going on." My hands were shaking now, rage and humiliation burning through my chest like acid. "Plus," Miranda continued, "Leonard thinks he might be able to get me that promotion to creative director. Can you imagine? Me running my own department? Making 6 figures? And Patrick will just keep plugging away at his little repair shop, thinking he's married to a successful woman who actually loves him." "You're evil, Miranda, but I love it," Sam said. "How long do you think you can keep this up?" "As long as I want. Leonard's crazy about me, and Patrick's so desperate to make this marriage work that he'll believe anything I tell him. I've got the best of both worlds. Financial security with Patrick and incredible passion with Leonard. Why would I give up either one?" I stood there in my own driveway, covered in motor oil and sweat, listening to my wife of 15 years describe me like I was some pathetic charity case she was stuck with. The woman I'd worked 60-hour weeks to support while she built her career. The woman I'd believed when she said we were partners, that we were building something together. Miranda's voice was getting closer to the window. "I should go, Sam. Patrick's probably wondering where I am. I'll tell him I was on a conference call with a client in California or something. He always buys that." I heard her footsteps moving away from the kitchen, probably heading upstairs to our bedroom, where she'd lie next to me and pretend to be the loving wife while thinking about Leonard Grant and their hotel room adventures. I picked up my tools with trembling hands and walked to my workshop in the garage. 15 years. 15 years of marriage, of thinking we were building something together, of believing that love and loyalty meant something. My phone buzzed. A text from Miranda. "Coming to bed soon? Miss you." I stared at that heart emoji for a long time, thinking about how easy it was for people to lie, how simple it was to destroy someone's life with a few late-night phone calls and hotel room visits. But Miranda had made one crucial mistake in her little conversation with Sam. She'd underestimated me, called me stupid, a coward, a loser who would never figure out what was going on. I opened my laptop and started typing. If Miranda wanted to play games, I'd show her what this loser was capable of. The first search was for private investigators in our area. Rick Devane looked exactly like what you'd expect from a private investigator. Grizzled, weathered face, cheap suit that had seen better days, and eyes that had probably seen too much of humanity's worst impulses. His office smelled like stale coffee and cigarettes, with a window that looked out onto the parking lot of a strip mall that had given up on life sometime in the 1990s. "So your wife's cheating," Rick said, leaning back in his creaky chair. "And you want proof." "I want everything," I said. "Photos, videos, documentation of where they go, when they meet, how long this has been going on. I want enough evidence that she can't lie her way out of it." Rick studied me for a moment. "You sure you want to go down this road, Patrick? Sometimes ignorance really is bliss. Once you see certain things, you can't unsee them." "She called me a loser," I said. "Said I was too stupid and too much of a coward to ever figure out what was going on. Said I'd never leave her because I'd lose everything." "Ah," Rick nodded knowingly. "Wounded pride. That'll do it every time." He pulled out a contract and slid it across his desk. "My rate is $50 an hour plus expenses. I'll need a retainer of $500 up front." I wrote the check, money I'd been saving for Miranda's birthday present. "How long do you think this will take?" "If she's as careless as you say, probably not long. Cheaters get sloppy when they think they're safe. They start taking risks, getting comfortable." Rick pocketed the check. "I'll start surveillance tomorrow. What's her schedule like?" I gave him Miranda's routine: work, gym, the coffee shop where she met friends, her usual haunts. It felt strange, clinical, reducing my wife's life to a series of locations and timestamps. "One more thing," Rick said as I stood to leave. "Whatever you're planning to do with this information, make sure it's legal. I've seen too many guys go down because they let their emotions make their decisions." "Don't worry," I said. "I'm not planning to do anything stupid." But as I walked back to my car, I wasn't entirely sure that was true. The next few days were torture. Miranda went about her normal routine, kissing me goodbye in the morning, asking about my day when she got home, snuggling up to me in bed at night, all while my phone buzzed with updates from Rick. Subject met with male individual at Starbucks on 5th Street, 2:17 p.m. Subject and same male individual entered Marriott Hotel downtown, 6:45 p.m. Subject exited hotel alone, 10:22 p.m. Each text felt like a knife twist. I found myself studying Miranda's face when she got home those nights, looking for signs of guilt or satisfaction or anything that might give her away. But she was good. She'd had practice. "How was your day, honey?" she'd ask, hanging up her coat and giving me a peck on the cheek that probably still tasted like Leonard Grant. "Fine," I'd say. "How was the Morrison account meeting?" "Oh, you know how these client presentations go. Leonard and I had to work late to get everything perfect." I'm exhausted. Exhausted from screwing your boss in a hotel room, I'd think. But I'd just nod and ask if she wanted me to make dinner. The breakthrough came on a Thursday. Rick called instead of texting. "Patrick, you need to see this," he said. "Can you meet me at my office?" 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from Rick as he pulled up photos on his laptop. The first few were standard surveillance shots. Miranda and Leonard walking into the hotel, sitting close together at a restaurant, his hand on her lower back as they walked. "This is all pretty standard affair documentation," Rick said. "But then I got lucky." He clicked to the next photo, and my breath caught. It was Miranda and Leonard in what looked like a hotel room, but the curtains were open, and Rick had managed to get a clear shot with a telephoto lens. They were kissing, Leonard's hands tangled in Miranda's hair, her blouse already unbuttoned. "There's more," Rick said quietly. The next several photos were increasingly explicit. Miranda straddling Leonard on the hotel bed, Leonard's hands all over my wife's body, Miranda's face, eyes closed in passion, the same expression I'd seen 1,000 times in our own bedroom. "I'm sorry you have to see this," Rick said. "But you said you wanted everything." "What else do you have?" Rick pulled out a folder. Credit card receipts from the hotel, restaurant bills, a paper trail going back 4 months. "Your wife's been very busy." 4 months. 4 months of lies. Of her coming home to me after being with him, of me believing that we were working through our problems when she was just using me as her safety net. "There's something else," Rick said. "I followed them to a company party last Friday night. Your wife said she was going to a client dinner, right?" I nodded. "Well, it was a party, and I managed to get some video." He turned his laptop toward me. "Fair warning, this one's pretty rough." The video was shaky, obviously shot from a distance, but the image was clear enough. Miranda, in a dress I'd never seen before, dancing with Leonard at what looked like an office party. But they weren't just dancing. They were all over each other, grinding against each other like teenagers, Leonard's hands roaming freely over Miranda's body while their coworkers watched and laughed. The worst part was Miranda's face. She looked happier than I'd seen her in years. Radiant, alive in a way she never was with me anymore. "I've got about 10 minutes of footage from that party," Rick said. "Your wife and her boss weren't exactly subtle." I closed the laptop. "That's enough. What do you want to do with all this?" I thought about Miranda's words from that night in the kitchen. How she'd called me a coward, a loser, someone too stupid to figure out what was going on. How she'd laughed with Sam about how easy it was to fool me. "I need copies of everything," I said. "Photos, videos, receipts, everything." "Patrick," Rick said carefully, "what are you planning?" "I'm planning to show my wife that she seriously underestimated this loser." Rick handed me a flash drive. "It's all on there. But remember what I said about keeping things legal." I pocketed the drive and stood up. "Don't worry, Rick. I'm not going to do anything that'll land me in jail. But I was definitely going to do something that would land Miranda in hell." I spent the weekend planning. Miranda was at another client meeting, probably another hotel room session with Leonard, which gave me plenty of time to think through my options. The smart play would have been to file for divorce immediately, use Rick's evidence to get a favorable settlement, and move on with my life. Cut my losses and start over. But I couldn't get Miranda's voice out of my head. The way she'd laughed about fooling me, the casual cruelty in how she'd described our marriage to Sam, the absolute certainty that I was too much of a coward to ever fight back. She wanted to see what this loser was capable of. Fine, I'd show her. Monday morning, I followed Leonard to his office building. He drove a silver BMW, just like I'd expected, parked it in the executive section of the garage like he owned the world. I waited until lunchtime, when the garage was mostly empty. Leonard's car sat there gleaming under the fluorescent lights, a symbol of everything he had that I didn't. Money, success, respect, my wife. I pulled out the bag of supplies I'd bought at the hardware store. Sugar for the gas tank was a myth, but there were other ways to make someone's day more interesting. I let the air out of all 4 tires first. Not slashed, that would be vandalism. Just deflated. Then I used washable paint to write "Cheater's Ride" across his windshield. Nothing permanent, nothing that couldn't be cleaned off, but definitely something that would get attention. The piece de resistance was the note I left on his driver's seat. I'd jimmied the lock, a skill I'd picked up as a teenager that finally came in handy. "Enjoy the ride, Lenny. Hope it's worth it." The loser. I was back at my shop before Leonard probably even realized what had happened. But I didn't have to wait long for confirmation. My phone buzzed with a text from Miranda around 2 p.m. "Someone vandalized Leonard's car at work today. Wrote horrible things about him. He's really upset. Some people are just so jealous of success." I texted back, "That's terrible. Any idea who would do something like that?" "Probably some disgruntled employee or competitor. Leonard's going to review the security footage." I smiled. The security cameras in that garage had been broken for months. I'd checked. That evening, Miranda came home in a mood I couldn't quite read, agitated but trying to hide it. "How was your day?" I asked, the same question I'd been asking for 15 years. "Fine," she said, but her voice was tight. "Just some drama at the office." "The thing with Leonard's car?" "Yeah." She looked at me sharply. "How did you know it was Leonard's car?" "You texted me about it, remember? Said someone vandalized your boss's car." Miranda relaxed slightly. "Right. Sorry, it's just been a stressful day. Leonard's really shaken up about it. He thinks someone at the company might know about..." She caught herself. "Know about what?" "Nothing. Just some confidential business stuff. You know how paranoid executives can get." I nodded sympathetically. "Well, I'm sure they'll figure out who did it." That night, as Miranda lay next to me, presumably thinking about her stressed-out boyfriend, I stared at the ceiling and planned my next move. The car thing had been satisfying, but it was just the opening shot. I needed something bigger, something that would really get their attention. I thought about the video Rick had shown me from the company party. Miranda and Leonard, all over each other, while their co-workers watched and laughed. What if that video found its way to a wider audience? I pulled out my laptop and started researching the company's internal email system. Miranda had given me her login information years ago when she needed me to fix her computer, and she'd never bothered to change it. Getting into the system was easier than I'd expected. Within an hour, I had access to the entire company directory. The video from the party was perfect, clear footage of Miranda and Leonard's very unprofessional behavior at a company event, the kind of thing that could cause serious problems for both of them if it got out. I created an anonymous email account and crafted a simple message. Thought you might be interested in seeing how your creative department head and her boss behave at company events. Might want to review your workplace conduct policies. I attached the video and sent it to the entire company directory. Marketing, accounting, HR, executives, interns, everyone. Then I closed the laptop and went to sleep. The next morning, Miranda's phone started ringing at 6 a.m. "What?" she answered groggily, then sat bolt upright. "Sam, slow down. What are you talking about?" I pretended to be asleep as Miranda got up and went into the bathroom, but I could still hear her side of the conversation. "What do you mean everyone saw it? How is that possible?" Long pause. "Oh my God. Oh my God, this can't be happening." Another pause. "No, I have no idea who could have sent it. Leonard and I were careful. We were always so careful." I heard her start to cry. "Sam, what am I going to do? If this gets to the board of directors, we're both finished. Leonard could lose his job, and I'll never get that promotion." When Miranda came back to bed, her face was pale and her hands were shaking. "Everything okay?" I asked, sitting up and putting my arm around her. "Someone sent a video of me and Leonard to everyone at the company," she whispered. "From the Christmas party. We were just dancing, but it looks really bad. I'm sorry, honey, that sounds awful. Who would do something like that?" "I don't know." She leaned against me, and I could feel her trembling. "Patrick, I need to tell you something. Leonard and we've been working so closely together on this account, and people have been talking, making assumptions. This video is going to make everything worse." It was fascinating, watching her try to spin the story even now, turning her affair into working closely together and people making assumptions. "What kind of assumptions?" I asked. That there's something going on between us. Which is ridiculous, of course. I mean, I'm married to you, I love you. But you know how office gossip can be. "Of course," I said, rubbing her back. "I'm sure everyone will realize it's just gossip." But even as I comforted my lying wife, I was already planning the next phase of my campaign. Miranda thought she was dealing with some anonymous troublemaker who'd gotten lucky with one embarrassing video. She had no idea that her loser husband was just getting started. The fallout from the video was immediate and spectacular. Miranda spent the next 3 days fielding phone calls from coworkers, trying to do damage control, and having hushed conversations with Leonard about crisis management. But the real entertainment came when our friends started weighing in. It started with Dave and Jennifer Morrison, not related to Miranda's Morrison account, just an unfortunate coincidence. Dave and I had been friends since college, and Jennifer and Miranda had bonded over their shared love of wine and complaining about their husbands. Dave called me Wednesday evening, while Miranda was at another emergency work meeting. "Pat, I need to ask you something, and I want you to know I'm asking as a friend." "Okay," I said, though I had a pretty good idea where this was going. "Jennifer saw something online today, a video of Miranda at some office party, getting pretty cozy with her boss. Now, I know how these things can get blown out of proportion, but Jennifer's worried about you. We both are." I let out a long sigh. "Yeah, I heard about that. Miranda's really upset about it." "So there's nothing going on between Miranda and this Leonard guy?" This was my moment. I could tell Dave the truth, show him Rick's evidence, get support from my oldest friend, or I could play the loyal husband, defend Miranda's honor, and maintain my cover while I continued my campaign. "Dave, you've known Miranda for 10 years. Do you really think she'd cheat on me?" "No, of course not. It's just the video looked pretty intense. It was a company party. People drink, they dance, things look worse than they are. You know how Jennifer gets when she's had a few glasses of wine at parties?" Dave laughed. "Fair point. Jennifer can get pretty handsy when she's drunk." "Exactly. Look, Miranda and I have been having some problems lately, but we're working through them. The last thing we need is people spreading rumors about her having an affair." "You're right. I'm sorry. Jennifer was just concerned, you know? She cares about you both." "I know, and I appreciate it, but we're okay." After I hung up, I felt a little sick. Dave was a good friend, and I'd just lied to him to protect the wife who was cheating on me, but I needed to maintain my cover a little longer. The next call came from Tom Bradley, another friend from our regular poker group. "Pat, what the hell is going on with Miranda?" "What do you mean?" "My wife saw some video of her practically screwing her boss at a Christmas party. Everyone's talking about it." Tom was less diplomatic than Dave. He'd never particularly liked Miranda, thought she was too ambitious, and looked down on the rest of us. It's just office gossip blown out of proportion, I said. Come on, Pat. I saw the video. That wasn't just dancing. She was all over that guy. Tom, I really don't want to get into this. Look, I'm going to be straight with you because we've been friends for 15 years. Miranda's cheating on you. Everyone can see it except you. The irony was almost funny. Everyone can see it except me. You're in denial, man. I get it. Nobody wants to believe their wife is stepping out on them. But you need to wake up and face reality. What reality is that, Tom? That your wife thinks she's too good for you and she's found herself a rich boyfriend. Pat, you're a good guy, but Miranda's always acted like she settled when she married you. Now she's found someone who matches her ambitions. I felt my temper starting to rise, not because Tom was wrong, but because he was so completely right and didn't know I already knew it. So what are you suggesting I do? Get a lawyer, get a private investigator, protect yourself before she takes you for everything you've got. I can't believe you're telling me to spy on my own wife. I'm telling you to open your eyes before it's too late. The conversation ended badly, with Tom getting frustrated at my apparent refusal to face facts and me playing the role of the naive husband who couldn't see what was right in front of him. But the real blow came when Jennifer Morrison called Miranda directly. I only heard Miranda's side of the conversation, but it was enough. Jennifer, I can't believe you would say something like that to me. Long pause. No, there is nothing going on between Leonard and me. We work together, that's all. Another pause, and Miranda's voice got colder. You know what, Jennifer? If that's what you really think of me, then maybe we shouldn't be friends anymore. Pause. No, I don't want to talk about it. I thought you knew me better than that. Miranda hung up and turned to me. Jennifer Morrison just accused me of having an affair with Leonard. Can you believe that? After 10 years of friendship, she sees one stupid video and assumes the worst about me. What did you tell her? The truth, that there's nothing going on, that it's just malicious gossip, and that I'm hurt she would even think such a thing about me. And what did she say? Miranda's jaw tightened. She said she was just looking out for you, said she didn't want to see you get hurt by a cheating wife. That's actually kind of sweet of her to be concerned. Sweet? Miranda stared at me. Patrick, she basically called me a 304. How is that sweet? She's worried about me, about us. Maybe she's just being a good friend. A good friend would give me the benefit of the doubt. A good friend wouldn't assume I'm capable of betraying my husband based on one video taken out of context. I nodded, but inside I was thinking about how Jennifer had actually been a better friend to me than I'd realized. She'd seen through Miranda's lies when I was still playing the fool. Over the next week, the social fallout continued. Dave and Jennifer stopped inviting us to their dinner parties. Tom made it clear he thought I was an idiot for staying with Miranda. Other couples in our social circle started taking sides or just avoiding us altogether. Miranda was furious about losing friends, but she blamed it on jealousy and small-minded gossip. She never once considered that maybe people were seeing her clearly for the first time. They're all just jealous, she told me one evening as we ate dinner in silence. Jealous that I have a successful career, that I work with sophisticated people, that I'm not content to just settle for mediocrity like they are. Maybe they're just concerned about us. Concerned? Miranda laughed bitterly. They're loving this. They've always resented me for being more ambitious than their little wives who are content to stay home and gossip about other people. I looked at my wife across our dinner table and realized that she genuinely believed she was the victim in all this, that she was being persecuted by small-minded people who couldn't understand her sophisticated relationship with her boss. The delusion was almost impressive, but I was about to shatter that delusion completely. I spent 2 weeks planning the family dinner. Miranda's parents, Robert and Carol, lived about an hour away and still thought their daughter had married beneath her when she chose me over the lawyer she'd been dating in college. My own parents had passed away years ago, but Miranda's family had always made it clear that I was lucky to be included in their sophisticated circle. Perfect. I think we should have your parents over for dinner, I told Miranda one evening. It's been months since we've seen them, and with all this stress at work, maybe some family time would be good for you. Miranda looked surprised. I rarely suggested spending time with her parents, mostly because they spent the entire visit making subtle digs about my income, my education, and my general unsuitability for their precious daughter. That's actually a really sweet idea, Patrick. I think you're right. It would be nice to see them. Why don't you invite Sam too? And maybe your brother Mike and his wife. Really? You want the whole family here? I think it would be good for us. Show everyone that we're doing well, that all this gossip about the video is just nonsense. Miranda's face lit up. You're absolutely right. We'll show them that our marriage is stronger than ever. If only she knew. I spent the week preparing. Not just the dinner, Miranda insisted on catering from her favorite expensive restaurant, but the presentation. Rick had given me everything on a flash drive, but I needed it in a format that would have maximum impact. I rented a projector and set it up in our dining room. Told Miranda it was for showing family photos after dinner. She thought it was a lovely touch. The guests arrived on Saturday evening. Robert and Carol Chen, sorry, I meant Robert and Carol Williams, came bearing their usual condescending smiles and backhanded compliments about our cozy little home. Miranda's brother Mike and his wife Susan were more neutral, but they'd always seen me as the family disappointment. Sam Torres arrived last, giving me the kind of fake hug that made my skin crawl. She'd been Miranda's enabler through this whole affair, probably helped plan some of their hotel rendezvous. Patrick, you look wonderful, Sam said. Miranda's so lucky to have such a supportive husband during this difficult time at work. I'm just glad I can be here for her, I replied. Dinner went exactly as expected. Robert dominated the conversation with stories about his latest golf game and his opinions on the economy. Carol made pointed comments about Miranda's stressful job and how maybe it was time for her to think about starting a family instead of focusing so much on her career. Actually, Mom, things at work are going really well, Miranda said. Leonard thinks I have a real shot at the creative director position. Leonard? Mike asked. Is that your boss? Yes, and he's been incredibly supportive. He really believes in my potential. Sam and Miranda exchanged a look across the table. If only they knew what was coming. That's wonderful, dear, Carol said. It's so important to have a mentor who recognizes your talents. Leonard's been amazing, Miranda continued. He's taught me so much about leadership, about what it takes to succeed at the executive level. We work very closely together. How closely? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Miranda looked at me sharply. What do you mean? Nothing, just wondering about your working relationship. You spend a lot of late nights at the office together. That's what it takes to succeed, Patrick. Some people understand that level of commitment. The dig was subtle but clear. Some people, meaning Leonard, understood ambition and success, unlike her husband, who was content with his little repair shop. Well, I think it's time for dessert, I said, standing up. But first, I have a little surprise. I dimmed the lights and turned on the projector. I thought it would be fun to show some photos from Miranda's recent work events. She's been working so hard, and I'm so proud of her success. Miranda looked confused but pleased. Patrick, what are you doing? Just celebrating my wonderful wife and her achievements. The first image that appeared on our dining room wall was the photo of Miranda and Leonard walking into the Marriott Hotel, his hand on her lower back, both of them looking like they couldn't wait to get to their room. Carol gasped. Robert dropped his wine glass. Patrick, what is this? Miranda's voice was sharp with panic. Just some photos of your work meetings, honey. You know, the ones where you and Leonard work so closely together? The next image was from inside the hotel room. Miranda straddling Leonard on the bed, her blouse unbuttoned, his hands all over her body. Oh my God, Susan whispered. Mike stood up abruptly. What the hell is going on here? But I wasn't done. The next slide was a compilation of hotel receipts, restaurant bills, and credit card statements. A clear paper trail of Miranda's affair spanning 4 months. Patrick, stop this right now! Miranda lunged for the projector, but I stepped in front of her. Why? I thought you'd want your family to see how successful you've been, how closely you've been working with Leonard. You son of a witch, Sam said, her face white with shock. How did you get these photos? The same way Miranda got Leonard's phone number. The same way she got those hotel room keys. The same way she's been lying to everyone in this room for months. Robert found his voice. Miranda, please tell me this isn't what it looks like. Miranda turned to her father, tears streaming down her face. Daddy, I can explain. It's not what you think. Really? I clicked to the next slide, the video from the company party. Because it looks like my wife has been screwing her boss while telling everyone what a supportive husband she has at home. The video played on our dining room wall, showing Miranda and Leonard all over each other at the Christmas party, grinding against each other while their co-workers cheered them on. Carol started crying. Miranda, How could you do this to Patrick? How could you do this to your marriage? You don't understand, Miranda said desperately. Patrick and I have been having problems. We've grown apart. Leonard and I, we connect on a different level. By screwing him in hotel rooms? Mike's voice was disgusted. Jesus, Miranda, what's wrong with you? Sam tried to defend her friend. You people don't understand the pressure Miranda's under at work. Sometimes these things just happen. These things? I turned to Sam. You mean affairs? Betraying your spouse? Lying to your family? You had no right to spy on her, Sam shot back. What kind of husband hires private investigators to follow his own wife? The kind of husband whose wife calls him a loser behind his back, I said. The kind of husband whose wife brags to her friends about how stupid and gullible he is. I clicked to the final slide, a transcript of the phone conversation I'd overheard that night in the driveway. Miranda's own words, describing me as a pathetic coward who would never figure out her affair. The room fell silent as everyone read Miranda's cruel assessment of our marriage and her confidence that she could fool me indefinitely. Miranda, Robert's voice was barely controlled. Is this really what you think of your husband? Miranda looked around the room at the faces of her family, all staring at her with shock and disappointment. Her perfect facade had crumbled completely. You don't understand, she said again, but her voice was weak now. You don't know what it's like being married to someone who has no ambition, no drive. Patrick's content to fix computers for the rest of his life while I'm trying to build something meaningful. By cheating on him? Carol's voice was sharp. By humiliating him? I never meant for anyone to get hurt. Mike stood up, his face flushed with anger. You never meant to get caught. You mean... Mike, please. But Mike was done listening. You know what, Miranda? Patrick's worth 10 of you. He's been nothing but loyal and supportive while you've been running around with your boss like some kind of... Don't you dare, Miranda snapped. Don't you dare judge me. I'll judge whoever I want, Mike shot back, especially my sister who's been cheating on her husband and lying to everyone about it. That's when Miranda completely lost it. She turned on me with pure fury in her eyes. You think you're so clever, don't you? You think you've won something here? Well, congratulations, Patrick. You've destroyed our marriage, humiliated me in front of my family, and proven that you're exactly as petty and vindictive as I always suspected. I destroyed our marriage? I couldn't help laughing. Miranda, I'm not the one who's been screwing my boss in hotel rooms for 4 months. At least Leonard appreciates me. At least he sees my potential instead of trying to drag me down to his level. His level? Mike stood up again. What level is that exactly? The level where people honor their marriage vows, where they don't lie and cheat and betray the people who love them? Miranda turned on her brother. You have no idea what my marriage has been like? Living with someone who has no ambition, no sophistication, no understanding of what I need? What you need? Carol's voice was ice cold. What you need is a good hard look at yourself, young lady. Don't lecture me, Mom. You've never understood me, never supported my career. I never told you to cheat on your husband to advance your career. The argument escalated quickly from there. Miranda against her entire family, all of them horrified by what they'd learned about her affair and her attitude toward me. Sam tried to defend Miranda, which only made things worse. Mike told Sam to stay out of family business. Robert demanded to know how long Miranda had been planning to leave me. Carol wanted to know if Miranda had any idea how much she'd hurt everyone who loved her. Through it all, I sat quietly and watched my wife's world collapse around her, watched her family turn against her as they realized what she'd become, watched her scramble for justifications and excuses that sounded more pathetic with each word. Finally, Robert stood up. Miranda, I think you need to seriously consider what you want out of life. And Patrick, I owe you an apology. I never thought you were good enough for my daughter, but I was wrong. She's not good enough for you. He and Carol left without saying goodbye to Miranda. Mike and Susan followed shortly after, but Mike stopped at the door. Patrick, if you need anything, a lawyer, a place to stay, whatever, you call me, okay? After they were gone, it was just me, Miranda, and Sam in our dining room, the projector still displaying the transcript of Miranda's phone conversation on the wall. I hope you're happy, Miranda said, her voice hollow. You've turned my entire family against me. I didn't turn anyone against you, Miranda. I just showed them who you really are. And what am I, Patrick? What am I really? I looked at my wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, and felt something I hadn't expected. Not anger anymore, not even hurt, just a kind of cold satisfaction. You're exactly what you called me that night on the phone with Sam. You're a loser. The difference is, I'm not your loser anymore. The weeks following the family dinner were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and cold silence. Miranda moved in with Sam temporarily, which saved us both the awkwardness of sharing a house while our marriage imploded. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly straightforward. With Rick's evidence, Miranda's lawyer advised her not to contest the adultery claim. She'd get her share of our assets, but she wouldn't be getting alimony or any claim to my business. But I wasn't satisfied yet. Miranda had called me a coward, a loser who would never fight back. She'd humiliated me for months while laughing about it with her friends. The divorce was just the legal cleanup. I wanted her to understand exactly what this loser was capable of. The opportunity came when I learned about the Riverside Community Association's annual summer barbecue. It was the biggest social event in our neighborhood, with over 200 people attending. All our neighbors, local business owners, community leaders, basically everyone who mattered in our little corner of the world. Miranda had always loved that barbecue. She'd spend weeks preparing, picking out the perfect outfit, planning conversations that would showcase her success and sophistication. It was her chance to shine in front of everyone, to prove that she was better than the suburban housewives and blue-collar husbands who made up most of our neighborhood. This year's theme was New Beginnings, which seemed perfect. I volunteered to help with the audio-visual setup. The association president, Janet Walsh, was thrilled to have someone with technical experience handle the sound system and the projector they used for their annual slideshow of community highlights. "Patrick, you're a lifesaver," Janet said, as I tested the microphone on the small stage they'd set up in Riverside Park. "I know this must be a difficult time for you with the divorce and everything." Word had gotten around about Miranda's affair. In a neighborhood where everyone knew everyone else's business, a scandal like ours was front-page news for weeks. "I'm doing okay," I said. "Actually, I'm looking forward to this barbecue. I think it's going to be very therapeutic." Janet smiled sympathetically. "Well, you know you have the support of the whole community. What Miranda did, well, it's just unforgivable." That was the general consensus around the neighborhood. Miranda had been exposed as a cheater and a liar, and the court of public opinion had rendered its verdict. But she didn't know that yet, because she'd been staying with Sam across town. The barbecue was scheduled for Saturday afternoon. On Friday night, I got a text from Miranda. "Patrick, I know things have been difficult between us, but I'd like to come to the community barbecue tomorrow. I have friends there, and I don't think it's fair for you to keep me away from neighborhood events." I texted back, "Of course, you should definitely come. I think everyone would love to see you." Saturday afternoon was perfect. Sunny, warm, with a light breeze that carried the smell of grilled hamburgers and hot dogs across the park. Families spread out on picnic blankets, kids ran around playing games, and the adults clustered in small groups, drinking beer and catching up on gossip. I worked the crowd like a politician, making sure to talk to everyone, accepting their condolences about my marriage and their praise for how well I was handling everything. "You're better off without her, Patrick," said Mrs. Henderson from 2 houses down. "I always thought Miranda was a bit too big for her britches." "She seemed to forget where she came from," added Bill Martinez, who owned the hardware store. Success went to her head. "The way she treated you was just shameful," said Janet Walsh, "carrying on with her boss like some kind of hussy." I nodded and accepted their sympathy while keeping an eye on the crowd. Miranda hadn't arrived yet, but I knew she would. She was too proud to let the neighborhood think she was hiding in shame. At 3 p.m., Janet took the microphone to begin the official program. She welcomed everyone, thanked the sponsors, and introduced the traditional slideshow of community highlights from the past year. That's when I saw Miranda arrive. She'd dressed carefully, a sundress that was elegant but not too formal, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. She looked beautiful and confident, ready to face down the gossips and prove that she was still the sophisticated woman they'd always known. She spotted me near the stage and gave me a cold nod. I smiled and waved back. "And now," Janet announced, "we have a special presentation from Patrick Saunders, who's put together a slideshow about new beginnings and second chances." Miranda looked confused. She hadn't known I was involved in the program. I took the microphone and looked out at the crowd of 200 neighbors, friends, and community members. "Thank you, Janet. You know, when I think about new beginnings, I think about the importance of truth, about how sometimes we have to face hard realities before we can move forward." I clicked the remote, and the first image appeared on the large screen behind me. It was a wedding photo of Miranda and me from 15 years ago, both of us young and smiling and full of hope. "This is how my marriage began," I said, "with love, trust, and the belief that we were partners who would face life's challenges together." The crowd murmured appreciatively. A few people smiled at the romantic sentiment. I clicked to the next slide. It was the photo of Miranda and Leonard walking into the Marriott Hotel. "This is how my marriage ended," I said. The crowd's murmur turned to gasps. I saw Miranda's face go white with shock. My wife, Miranda, decided that our marriage vows were just suggestions, that loyalty was optional, that she could have her cake and eat it too. I clicked through more photos. Miranda and Leonard at restaurants, holding hands, kissing in the hotel lobby. For 4 months, Miranda carried on an affair with her boss while coming home to me every night and pretending to be a loving wife. Miranda started pushing through the crowd toward the stage, but people were blocking her path, too stunned by what they were seeing to move aside. "She called me a loser," I continued, my voice carrying clearly through the park's sound system. "Said I was too stupid and too much of a coward to ever figure out what was going on." I clicked to the transcript of Miranda's phone conversation with Sam, projected large enough for everyone to read. These are her exact words, describing how easy it was to fool her pathetic husband while she screwed her boss in hotel rooms. The crowd was completely silent now, except for a few shocked whispers. All eyes were on Miranda, who had finally made it close to the stage. "Patrick, stop this right now!" she shouted. "You can't do this to me!" I looked down at her, this woman I'd loved for 15 years, who had betrayed me and mocked me, and thought she could get away with it forever. "Actually, Miranda, I can do this, because unlike you, I'm not afraid of the truth." I clicked to the video from the company party showing Miranda and Leonard all over each other while their coworkers cheered. This is the woman who thought she was too sophisticated for our little neighborhood, too good for her blue-collar husband, too smart to get caught. Miranda was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks, her perfect composure completely shattered. "Well, Miranda, you were wrong about one thing. This loser was smart enough to figure out exactly what kind of person you are." I turned back to the crowd, many of whom were holding up phones, recording everything. "So yes, this barbecue is about new beginnings. It's about my new beginning, free from a wife who had so little respect for me that she thought she could cheat on me indefinitely without consequences." I handed the microphone back to Janet, who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else in the world. Miranda stood in front of the stage, tears streaming down her face, while 200 of our neighbors stared at her in judgment and disgust. "I hope you're all happy," she said, her voice breaking. "I hope you enjoyed the show." She turned and ran toward the parking lot, pushing past people who stepped aside to let her pass. Sam, who had apparently come with Miranda, tried to follow her, but several neighbors blocked her path. "You should be ashamed of yourself," Mrs. Henderson told Sam. "Helping her cheat on Patrick like that." "You don't understand," Sam protested. "Miranda was unhappy. She deserved better." "She deserved exactly what she got," Bill Martinez said. "A cheater gets what's coming to them." I watched from the stage as Miranda's few remaining allies were overwhelmed by the crowd's anger. The video had made it clear that this wasn't just about adultery. It was about the cruel way Miranda had mocked and dismissed her husband while carrying on her affair. As the crowd began to disperse, many people came up to congratulate me. "Good for you, Patrick," said Tom Bradley, who had driven over when he heard about my presentation. "It's about time someone put Miranda in her place." "She had it coming," agreed Jennifer Morrison. "The way she treated you was disgusting." Even Janet Walsh, despite her obvious discomfort with the public nature of my revenge, seemed supportive. "I'm sorry you had to go through all that, Patrick, but maybe now you can move on with your life." As I packed up the projector and sound equipment, I felt a sense of completion I hadn't expected. For months, Miranda had held all the power in our relationship. She'd been the one with secrets, with a double life, with the ability to humiliate me whenever she chose. Now the balance had shifted. Now she was the one who'd been exposed, humiliated, and judged by everyone who mattered. My phone buzzed with a text from Miranda. "I will never forgive you for this." I texted back, "Good, we're even." But I wasn't quite done yet. 3 weeks after the barbecue, I was working late at my shop when I got an unexpected visitor. Leonard Grant stood in my doorway, looking like he'd aged 10 years since I'd last seen him in those hotel photos. "We need to talk," he said. I looked up from the computer I was repairing. "Do we? I can't imagine what we'd have to discuss. You've destroyed Miranda's life. You've destroyed my career. Don't you think you've done enough damage?" I set down my screwdriver and really looked at him. Leonard Grant, the successful executive who'd stolen my wife. He looked defeated, worn down, nothing like the confident man who'd been groping Miranda at that Christmas party. How exactly have I destroyed your career, Leonard? The video you sent to our entire company? The photos you showed at that barbecue? It's all over social media now. The board of directors fired me last week. That's unfortunate. But I didn't make you cheat on your wife with my wife. Your marriage was already over. Miranda told me you two were getting divorced anyway. I almost laughed. Is that what she told you? That we were already separated? Leonard's face went pale. You weren't? Leonard, Miranda was coming home to me every night after screwing you in hotel rooms. She was telling me she loved me while planning her next rendezvous with you. Did she mention that part? He sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk. She said you two were just going through the motions, that you were staying together for financial reasons, but the marriage was over emotionally. And you believed her? I wanted to believe her. She is an incredible woman, ambitious, passionate, everything my wife isn't. Your wife? You're married too? Leonard nodded miserably. 22 years, 3 kids. She filed for divorce after the video came out. So Miranda had destroyed 2 marriages, not just one. Somehow that made me feel slightly better about what I'd done to her. What do you want from me, Leonard? I want you to stop. The public humiliation, the social media posts, whatever else you're planning. Miranda's already lost her job. Her family won't speak to her. She's had to move in with that friend of hers. Isn't that enough? I studied Leonard's face. He looked genuinely broken, a man who'd lost everything for an affair that had probably seemed exciting and risk-free when it started. You know what Miranda called me, Leonard? A loser, a coward, someone too stupid to figure out what was going on and too pathetic to do anything about it, even if I did. She was angry. People say things they don't mean when they're angry. She said it before she was angry. She said it when she thought she was safe, when she thought she'd fooled me completely. She said it because that's what she really thought of me. Leonard was quiet for a long moment. So this is all about revenge, about proving you're not a loser? This is about consequences. Miranda thought she could cheat on me without any real repercussions. She thought she was smarter than me, better than me, untouchable. I proved her wrong, and now she's paying for it. Now she's paying for her choices, just like you are. Leonard stood up. I hope you're satisfied, Patrick. I hope destroying 2 marriages was worth it. I didn't destroy 2 marriages, Leonard. You and Miranda did that when you decided to cheat on your spouses. I just made sure everyone knew about it. After he left, I sat in my shop thinking about what he'd said. Was I satisfied? Had my revenge been worth it? The answer was complicated. I'd proven that I wasn't the coward Miranda thought I was. I'd made sure she faced consequences for her betrayal. I'd shown everyone in our community exactly what kind of person she really was. But I'd also burned every bridge in the process. Our mutual friends had chosen sides, and while most of them supported me, the relationships would never be the same. I'd humiliated Miranda so thoroughly that there was no possibility of an amicable divorce or any kind of civil relationship going forward. My phone rang. It was my lawyer, David Chen. Patrick, I have some news about the divorce settlement. Miranda's lawyer is recommending she accept our terms without further negotiation. Really? Why? Apparently, she's eager to finalize everything and move out of state. She's gotten a job offer in Portland, wants to start fresh somewhere new. Portland, 3,000 miles away from the mess she'd made here. That works for me, I said. There's one more thing. She's asked if you'd be willing to keep the details of the affair out of the public record. Make the divorce about irreconcilable differences instead of adultery. I thought about it. The legal record wouldn't matter much. Everyone who needed to know the truth already knew it. Tell her I'll agree to that on one condition. What's that? She writes me a letter. A real letter, not an email or a text. I want her to acknowledge what she did and apologize for it. Not because she got caught, but because she understands it was wrong. I'll pass that along. 2 days later, I received a handwritten letter from Miranda. Her handwriting was as elegant as always, but I could see places where her pen had pressed harder into the paper, where her emotions had gotten the better of her. Patrick, I know you hate me, and I understand why. What I did to you was inexcusable. I betrayed our marriage vows. I lied to you for months, and I said cruel things about you that I didn't mean. I want you to know that my affair with Leonard wasn't about you not being good enough. It was about me being selfish and stupid and thinking I could have everything I wanted without consequences. You were a good husband. You supported my career. You were patient with my moods. You tried to make our marriage work even when I was pulling away from you. You deserved better than what I gave you. I called you a loser, but I was wrong. A loser wouldn't have fought back the way you did. A loser wouldn't have been smart enough to gather evidence and plan his revenge so carefully. A loser wouldn't have had the courage to expose me in front of everyone we know. You're not a loser, Patrick. You're the man who loved me enough to marry me, and I threw that away for something that was never real. I'm moving to Portland next month. I won't contest the divorce terms, and I won't cause you any more problems. I just want to disappear and try to build some kind of life from the pieces I have left. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I needed you to know that I understand what I did to you, and I'm sorry. Miranda. I read the letter 3 times, then folded it and put it in my desk drawer. It was the closest thing to closure I was going to get. A month later, Miranda was gone. The divorce was finalized, the house was mine, and I was officially single for the first time in 15 years. I thought I'd feel more triumphant. Instead, I mostly felt tired. My business was doing well. The publicity from Miranda's affair had actually brought me more customers, people who admired how I'd handled the situation. I'd started dating again, nothing serious, just coffee dates and casual dinners with women who seemed impressed by my story. But sometimes late at night, I'd think about the early years of my marriage, when Miranda and I were happy, when we were partners, when I believed we were building something together that would last. Those memories felt like they belonged to someone else now. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Sam Torres at the grocery store. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me, but she didn't try to avoid me. Patrick, how are you doing? I'm fine, Sam. How's Miranda? She's adjusting. The job in Portland is going well. She's seeing a therapist trying to work through some things. That's good. I hope she finds what she's looking for. Sam studied my face. Do you ever regret it? What you did to her? I thought about the question. Did I regret exposing Miranda's affair? Did I regret the public humiliation, the destroyed relationships, the nuclear option I'd chosen instead of a quiet divorce? No, I said finally. Miranda made her choices and I made mine. She thought I was too much of a coward to fight back, and she was wrong. She never called you a coward, Patrick. She was just confused about what she wanted. I looked at Sam, Miranda's loyal friend who had enabled and encouraged the affair from the beginning. Sam, I heard the phone call. I know exactly what Miranda said about me and how she said it. Don't try to rewrite history now. Sam's face flushed. She was just venting. People say things they don't mean when they're frustrated. Maybe, but actions have consequences. Miranda learned that the hard way. I finished my shopping and headed for the checkout line. As I was loading groceries into my car, Sam approached me one more time. You know, Patrick, Miranda really did love you. Even during the affair, she cared about you. I looked at Sam, this woman who had helped my wife cheat on me and was now trying to make me feel guilty about my response. If that's what Miranda's love looks like, I said, then I'm better off without it. As I drove home, I thought about the man I'd been a year ago, the husband who worked long hours to support his wife's career, who believed in marriage vows and partnership and building something together, the man who would have been devastated by his wife's betrayal but probably would have handled it quietly, privately, with dignity. Miranda had been right about one thing. That man was a loser. Not because he lacked ambition or sophistication, but because he would have let her get away with it. He would have absorbed the humiliation and moved on, letting Miranda continue to think she was smarter and better than everyone around her. But I wasn't that man anymore. Miranda's betrayal had changed me, turned me into someone who fought back, who refused to be anyone's fool, who made sure that actions had consequences. I pulled into my driveway and looked at my house. My house now, not ours. The mortgage was in my name, the deed was in my name, and every memory of Miranda's presence was gone. Inside, I poured myself a glass of whiskey and sat in my living room, thinking about new beginnings and second chances and the price of revenge. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer Morrison. Dave and I are having a barbecue this weekend. You should come. There's someone we'd like you to meet. I smiled and typed back, I'll be there. Maybe it was time to start building something new, something honest this time, with someone who understood that love wasn't just a word you said, but a choice you made every day. Miranda had taught me what betrayal looked like. Now, maybe I could learn what real partnership felt like. I raised my glass in a toast to my empty living room. Here's to new beginnings, I said aloud, and to proving that sometimes the loser gets the last laugh.